He's Espa Roba. He duels using ESP.
You mean he's psycho?
No, psychic. He'll mind read the cards in your hand. He'll know what move you'll make before you do.
Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News Anime Night, where in this particular installment, we take on all of the duels of the Battle City Tournament in Yu-Gi-Oh! I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this, and joining me is my usual panel of fellow geeks, fellow YouTubers, and fellow awesome guys in general. But first, before we get into any of this stuff, I need to have a serious talk with them. Brinton?
Yeah.
You've got to stop sending your smaller, younger, and yet identical brothers as a in-between means of not texting. You've got to stop doing that because you are running their little legs ragged.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't... Well, okay. Could you at least get rid of the pink shirt? It's really disconcerting.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
and then Alex, we need to have a talk. I know that you love all of the, because you're such a Sonic fan, you love all of the pinball levels and the Casinopolises and the casino nights and all that, but you got to take all that shit out of your dueling deck, man. I know it's not healthy for you, and I think you're legitimately becoming addicted to gambling.
No, it's all just part of my pinball strategy.
Look, I know that you want to be able to go off and do all of the dot hack pachinko machines, but you will not be able to unlock every single ending within that time frame. I'm sorry.
Oh, damn.
All right. Well, I hope everybody got all of those references, because today we are talking the ESP Duelist. So the duel that we are taking on today is Joey Wheeler's official debut in the Battle City Tournament, because the other duel doesn't count. It was in a back alley, and he was more worried about his sister, who locked herself in the room. Like some people have reminded me, like Paris Hilton used to do, I guess. I didn't know that, but okay.
I didn't know that either.
So this is the debut of Joey Wheeler in the Battle City Tournament against an up-and-coming duelist that is introduced in this arc specifically, Espa Roba. And the stakes that are going to be in place are, obviously with the Battle City rules, it is going to be Joey Wheeler's Time Wizard putting up in the ante up next to Espa Roba's Jinzo. So whoever wins gets the opposing one, and obviously we know the stakes from the previous duel. If Joey loses the Time Wizard, he is officially out of the Battle City Tournament. So, that being said, this is actually one of the first two-part duels that we are going to be dealing with in the first rounds. So the first thing that I want to start off with is, before we get into notes and everything like that, I just have to ask this question honestly, because I was thinking about it the whole time. Was this too soon to introduce Espa Roba, considering that he was a brand spanking new duelist and they had other duelists they could go to?
That's a really good question. And the first answer that just comes off right at the top of my head is no.
Okay.
But I don't really have like a conclusive reason why. It didn't feel like more than just to say it didn't feel out of place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Because he was technically the only one that was brand new that was being introduced. And obviously he was going to, and this is going to go into the next question, but, you know, he already had a gimmick around him. And so at that point, you know, you already had a lot of those established Duelist Kingdom contenders to be able to take on. And instead they went with the new guy. That's the only kind of beef I have with it. I kind of understand why they did do that with Espa. What did you think about that, Alex?
I don't have a problem with it. I think it's probably as good a time as any to introduce a new duelist rather than just keep relying on the old staples from Duelist Kingdom.
And another question that I actually have on that is, like, should it have been Joey that introduced Espa, or should it have been Yugi that introduced him? I think because the gimmick, it needed to be Joey. Because as we're going to get into, This is yet another duelist who is claiming to have, and I quote, psychic powers. Joey seems to fight a lot of people with psychic powers. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
He just gets into those situations, like,
Because
happens.
if you think about it, Mai was his first duel, and she did that, and probably the most inventive way. Bones attempted to, through means of scaring Joey, try to make it look like he was reading his mind in what he was doing. And now we have Espa Roba. We can't count Bandit Keith in there because Bandit Keith didn't do anything like that. He was just being, the schmuck that he is. So at that point, we have the stakes set in, and obviously this is going to be the Battle City rules. But we also have an additional deal going on, and I know some people actually complain about this. Yugi and Joey separated. Apparently, that was a bad idea to some people.
I think it's a good idea, personally.
I'm in that camp too. I think it was a good idea because in Duelist Kingdom, you couldn't get away with it. You had a smaller area to work with. But in Battle City, the problem is like Joey kind of came off as always being in Yugi's shadow. So much like what we were saying with the Bandit Keith episode, where you could have separated him from the Pharaoh and let Yugi come into his own, same thing needed to happen with Joey here.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since Joey now has like a full-on dueling deck. Not the Duelist Kingdom deck, which was like 90% monsters and like 3 magic cards. This was a legit dueling deck. Because you can't get away with the same shit anymore. Brenton, what did you think about that? Should Yugi have been with him the whole time?
No, I think you guys have already made some pretty good points that I don't really have. Like, I don't really feel there's much more I could add to it. Yeah. There's a much bigger playing field. A lot of people, so far from what episodes we are watching, don't even know that Joey was like in the top 3 of Duelist Kingdom. So this is, I think it's just Yugi's way of being like, I got my own shit and I'm going to go take care of that. You go show everyone in this tournament why you were in the top 3.
Right. And before people also jump down my throat, well, technically Yugi was there. Yeah, but Joey didn't know he was there. I think that's a premier difference. Like when that duel started, he didn't know if anybody was watching that he knew. He was basically, being Joey Wheeler. He was walking into a challenge and facing it head on. But at that point, like Taya wasn't there. He didn't know Tristan. Like he didn't know Tristan was there. He didn't know anybody was there for him. And frankly, the same thing applies to Yugi. Yugi just got a really nice skybox seat of the duel. And he didn't really do anything to interrupt what was going on in the duel. So yes, you couldn't say like, yeah, well, he was technically there. I'd argue he wasn't. He was just a spectator, and he stayed that way. Because remember, in Duelist Kingdom, there were a few times he didn't do that. So that being said, let's get into the duel themselves. What did you think of this particular duel? So we had the whole ESP gimmick that was being done by Espa Roba, and we got the introduction of Joey's deck. What do you think were the pluses? Let's talk the positives of this duel. What did it do right?
I want to go first this time because I know Alex went first the last time.
Yeah, go ahead.
So let's see here. I'm looking at my notes really quick. I think the entire duel, because I think it's just safe to say right off the bat, no, Espa Roba is not a psychic, and yes, his brothers were feeding him information. So I kind of liked as Joey figured out on his own, because he's already been through that scenario 2 different times, and he has a bunch of street smarts. He knew something was up, and he figured it out really, really quick. So I kind of like this whole theme of trickery between both of the duelists. Espa Roba tricking his opponent into thinking that he knew what was going on and what it was that they were going to do. But then as Joey started to catch on what was actually happening, essentially tricking him and making him believe, oh, yeah, you're right. I am going to do this. You're absolutely 100% right. And then pulling out his strategies, completely just causing Espa Roba to be like, whoa, like, okay, now, like, you're clearly making it obvious that I am a hack and that I have been conning people, which that statement kind of goes into more of a negative part of the episode that I had.
I'm
but
gonna
I
add on to that a little bit.
Yeah,
too.
go for it.
The fact that it was revealed very early on, it was like halfway into the first episode when we found out the whole when I'm talking, the viewer found out the whole gimmick, which was, yeah, Espa Roba's many younger yet identical looking brothers all looking above with binoculars at Joey's hand, and obviously Espa can hear them via some kind of listening device. I thought that the fact that we got that revealed really quick made us kind of get to the point of the duel, and also the fact that Joey figured it out pretty early on also helped, because we didn't have to go through basically Mai all over again where he was intimidated the whole dang time. Instead, he learned pretty early on that this was a scam and he knew how to counteract it. So I'm complimenting what you're saying, but I also love the fact it happened so early on that we could just focus on the duel itself.
Yeah, other notes that I've written down here. I thought having the 2 dice cards was a nice little combo.
Yeah.
When I used to play the trading card game, I actually had both of those dice cards, and I loved using them.
Yeah, well, anybody who had the Joey starter deck had them because they were made common that way.
I actually found them from booster packs.
Yeah, you could get them that way too. That's how you got the super rare versions, because they were, they actually, no, Skull Dice was a secret rare, I think, because he had the weird crystallized hologram. But if you got the Joey starter deck, you just got the common versions.
Right, exactly. I thought Espa Roba had a solid deck.
Yeah.
Cards really complemented each other. I felt like he had great command over what it was that he was trying to do and how he was going to get the rarest, like his rare cards out onto the playing field. Like, just I just wrote Espa has a solid deck, smart playing.
He's got solid skill behind it too.
Exactly. I mean, he doesn't even, like, that's what's just so frustrating, that he had to, like, cheat and play this whole trickery against his opponent, because he has a really good solid deck.
Yeah, no, he's got some skill.
And if it wasn't for Joey playing Scapegoat, he would have lost.
Scapegoat. We'll get there in a minute. The other thing I found interesting was, like, okay, so they didn't adopt completely into the whole psychic gimmick and have him have nothing but, like, psychic monsters. No, he went with a cyber deck. That was actually really interesting.
Yeah, I liked it as well. But those were my thoughts. I thought both of them, Joey and Espa, had a lot of really good strategy, played a lot of good moves, had solid decks, and in my opinion,
like, had a reward card that seriously could have helped Joey. Because like, if you've watched Yu-Gi-Oh long enough, you know who's going to win the duel. And frankly, when Jinzo gets revealed in its skills, it's very obvious that Joey should put this in his deck like 5 minutes ago.
Yes, exactly.
Any positives from you, Alex?
Yeah, I could agree with Brenton to watch Joey kind of be a little more smarter than we kind of usually give him credit to be.
Oh, yeah.
Him actually being able to really strategize very well through the battle.
Yeah.
And not necessarily just outright believe that, oh, Espa Roba must be psychic. He kind of suspects something's going on, but he's like, but he's still got to just play his hands and got to try and strategize and outsmart him.
He's a schmuck. Like, he has those schmuck moments, but when it comes to dueling, like, he turns that on like a light switch.
That's why I brought up the street smarts, because a lot of people do make Joey out to believe like he's just a dumb comic relief, and it's like, no, being street smart is quite a skill, and most street smart individuals are by far in my experience in 32 short years, like kind of have a one up those who just have their nose in a book and only are book smart.
Well, he's the Rocky. Oh crap! What's his last name?
Balboa.
Rocky. He's the Rocky Balboa of Duel Monsters, is what he is. So like he's got that street smarts, but he's also got a lot of heart, and so that's why people have attached so much to Joey. So much so that a lot of people think Joey should be the main protagonist, not Yugi. And I can kind of understand that he's got a lot of heart to him.
Sense.
Yeah.
So
keep going, Alex. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
no problem. It's fine. So, but yeah, I liked that. I liked Joey really getting clever, right? Even though he's kind of falling back on a bit of an old strategy he did in Duelist Kingdom, he still finds a way to kind of shake it up a bit and to keep his opponent off guard a bit.
Not only that, but you can see that he's learned from Yugi, and some of his strategies are similar to Yugi.
Yeah. And kind of what you were going on to, Adam, is the fact that Yugi was more of the spectator in this duel. He just watched from the rooftop rather than be there to be the cheerleader for Joey, like we kind of would usually expect, or to kind of help Joey strategize through the fight. Like the previous duel when we saw, well, that was the opposite way when Yugi was fighting the rare hunter and then Joey was trying to be the cheerleader, and so it was kind of just a nice final turn on the formula to that point.
No, exactly. And I actually like how we found out about Espa's gimmick, which is where Yugi found them. Like, Yugi was, I guess, on the building right next to them. Awfully convenient, don't you think?
Of course.
And so at that point, he just kind of looks at him and goes, you know what? I'm not going to step in. And I think that was the right decision, because at that point, if he had stepped in, it would have just been more hand-holding from Yugi, from a viewer's perspective. What did we think about the changes to Joey's deck? Because so at this point you could call it solidly a warrior deck. It's got, and we've already introduced some of the new monsters that he's going to be known for, like Swordsman of Landstar, Alligator Sword, and even some old strategies like the Baby Dragon Time Wizard combo. But at that point, we also see that a lot of his magic card, trap card combinations are implementing based on gambles, which is going to be Joey's shtick from here on. Is like the way that he saves himself in duels is because he's going to take a big gamble, and either it's going to pay off or it's not. So, like, what did you guys think about the gambling deck that Joey basically had here?
I liked it. I thought it was a bold choice.
Okay. I think it goes... It's not something I would pick, but it's definitely something I could say Joey would pick. Because, as Brinton said, he's street smart. So at that point, a lot of that has to depend on luck and instinct. And so, obviously, his deck should reflect that.
I was going to say that it matches who he is as a person very, very nicely.
Yeah.
And just to show his willingness, to, well, I'm just going to throw it all on the table all at once. One big last finale. This could either hurt me or it could help me. Who knows? Do.
So at that point, what did this duel do wrong in your eyes? For me, obviously I didn't like the whole ESP gimmick that Espa tried to adopt, especially with how basically simplistic a lot of it was. But that kind of goes into the opposite of like, oh, it was unveiled early on that he was a that he was a fake psychic. One thing I will say is I kind of wish we'd had a little bit more with the previous duel, because a lot of people might not remember this. He knocked Rex Raptor out of this tournament. And I kind of feel like Rex got the shaft in Battle City because of that. Which is, to me, it's just really sad, because the next time we see Rex in any kind of a duel, it's in Waking the Dragons, and his deck is amazing at that point. And I kind of wonder, like, how much of that was in his Battle City deck versus what he got from Darts. And the fact that we basically come in on the last turn, I kind of would have liked to have seen like 2 or 3 turns in, just to show Espa's skill, as well as being able to show that Rex is still a very competent opponent. Instead, he kind of looks weaker than everybody else.
I didn't even consider that. You make a really good point there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, guys. There's not a whole lot to Rex's deck. He's basically all aggression and nothing else because that's what a dinosaur deck is. But the fact that you could have showcased him as a particular threat in this duel, because maybe, like, or not in this duel, but in this tournament, like, he could easily just wipe out opponents, already have his locator cards, and then at that point, you could have done, like, a big gamble between him and Joey and have a second round. But no, he gets eliminated pretty early on, and his rare Serpent Knight Dragon has been taken by Espa Roba, which I guess is now his new rarest card, because now he doesn't have Jinzo. And Jinzo's actually a really good card. Aside from that, the major negatives that I have with it is kind of like what Brenton was saying. I really wish we could have highlighted Espa's skill a little bit more, because he actually does have a strategy in his deck with a lot of his cyber monsters, and it wasn't really showcased because we had to deal with the whole the
Oh yeah.
all the time. I will say another problem is Espa's voice. Whoever did the voice for Espa needs to learn how to do another type of voice, because all you're doing is being loud and projecting.
Stop it.
You won't beat me, Wheeler, and here's how I know you won't. And what made it worse was all the other brothers sounded just like him.
Probably voiced all the brothers.
Yes, he did. And they basically put on different settings for each. And after a while, that became like nails on a chalkboard to me. So those are my negatives. Alex, what about you?
The whole like aside with Taya, like that was so not needed. You know, where this is the one I think where she's just waiting for on the park bench, and then like
oh yes,
Grandpa, and then Solomon comes up and like scares her for no reason.
Yeah, the creepy grandpa moment.
Yeah, it's a little funny, but it's kind of was so pointless.
There always has to be that one pervert in an anime,
well,
and unfortunately,
it always has to be an old man.
Well, in more modern anime, it's like it's a teenage boy recently for some reason. But yeah, like Yugi's grandfather is the stereotypical pervert in this particular anime.
I kind of feel bad for him, and I'll get back to him in a little bit. But yeah, the whole subplot of Taya finding Yugi's grandpa, it just doesn't. The problem that I had with it, and maybe you weren't in the same ballpark, Alex, was like, you'd think that, you know, Yugi would have woken up early and made sure that at least Taya knew where to find him. And so at that point they could go together. But no, apparently he just left her to be in the park all by herself. Nice friendship there, Yugi.
No wonder people our age have bad communication skills. We learned it all from anime and their poor communication skills.
Wow, is this going to become a public announcement about how not to socialize?
Well, I mean, you don't need to hear it from the social worker who has social anxiety.
So I kind of agree with you, but at least with like, okay, so we're talking about the stereotype with Yugi's grandpa, because the first thing that comes to my mind is, because I have watched Sailor Moon, is Ray's grandpa. Because he is that stereotypical, you know, he wants to be able to cop a feel whenever he gets the chance. But at least Ray's grandpa had redeeming moments. This is pretty much it, boys and girls. He doesn't get much until like near the end of the series. Poor Solomon. And apparently season 0 did a lot for him, because like at least at that point they knew he was an archaeologist.
Interesting.
Yeah, he got a serious case of Ray's grandpa syndrome. Brenton, any negatives for you?
I wasn't a huge fan of the ESP stuff as well, especially since it was, as we have established, communicated pretty early into the duel that it was a hoax. And then it just was extremely annoying to me that for the remainder of both episodes, Espa Roba thought it would be a great idea to continue acting like, oh, you know nothing. And it's like, can you just please stop?
Or no, he even kept the cosmic shtick too. He's like, I still foretell that you will lose this duel. And I'm like, dude, we've already seen through it.
Yeah, it was just
you don't need to bring up the cosmics and the stars aligning and all. No, just stick to your strategy, man.
Yeah, another thing that I found super, super frustrating is that when Mokuba somehow finding his brothers and
somebody lit up the Mokuba signal.
One, I have no idea how he even found out, one, that Espa Roba was cheating, two, where his brothers were, but three, the whole the whole fact that the commissioner of the entire tournament was not gaslit, just manipulated into let the duel happen. No, bitch, I'm no, we're going down there, we're ending the duel, and we're gonna reward Joey as the victor because your brother is cheating and we're disqualifying him.
Well,
this is
here's
done.
The other thing too. Would Seto have let them get away with it? Hell no. He'd be making fun of them. It's like, this is how much of a personality difference Mokuba and Seto have.
I think Seto, he'd let him get away with it if they're doing someone else. If Seto's doing Espa Roba, he would absolutely he'd absolutely nail him for cheating.
If Espa found out, or if Seto found out Espa was dueling Joey, he'd be like, here, take my blue eyes.
Yeah, he'd be like, yeah, let him have it.
Yeah, let him have it. I can
knock out Wheeler.
One thing that also with Mokuba is, I think we need to mention this too because it's going to come up throughout the other episodes. He must have a fucking Mega Man teleporter in that conference room where he's observing all the duels, because man, he gets back there real quick.
Yeah, I guess he does.
I can only imagine a big line of pixels like Mega Man, but it has Mokuba's hairstyle, and it just goes back to the conference to the dueling HQ. Okay. Well, neither of you. Go ahead.
I have a couple of I was gonna say I have a couple of other notes.
Okay.
There came a point in the duel where Joey could have attacked Espa Roba's life points directly and won, and chose not to. And for some reason, that really annoyed me because in the following turn, freaking Espa Roba was able to summon Jinzo, and I was just like, wow, you're smart. Well,
that was because he used the mind control trap. So he basically took Joey's monster and then the next turn used it to sacrifice.
Yeah, but Joey had another monster.
Yeah, it already had attacked.
Did it?
Yeah, because he used Alligator Sword first, and then as Swordsman of Landstar was about to attack, that's when he got mind control.
Apparently I wasn't paying attention.
No, you're not wrong, because Joey knew that rule. It was used on him with the Rare Hunter. So he did utilize it. He still had moments where he was fumbling here and there.
Well, and that was
too confident.
Well, another thing that really kind of annoyed me is when people were giving him crap for not knowing the Battle City rules right away. And it's like, yo, this is like day one of the tournament. How about you give the man a break? You probably don't really know all the rules either. So it's not just...
Actually, I thought that was typical Joey. Like, he's... Because, yes, he's the Rocky Balboa, but he's also very much a jock. So obviously he didn't read the rules.
Yeah, but at the same time, even those who are not quote unquote jocks and are quote unquote the smart kid in the room, they're not going to know everything right away, especially on day one of the tournament. What?
Things aren't going to make sense right away either.
No, these are brand new rules that are being established by Kaiba for this new tournament. This is all new to everybody, including the King of Games. And it's going to take a second for people to remember, oh yeah, I can't just summon a super strong monster. I need to sacrifice first. So I just thought it was...
With the Rare Hunter showcased it better, where because you had that internal monologue happening where he was like, oh yeah, there's this rule. And Joey didn't really have that. And I think the reason that they did it was because they still like to have we gotta make Joey look like an absolute doofus during his duel because he's always the come from behind guy. And the shtick gets old.
Well, I think yes, thank you. It does get old because if we're gonna get because right now the only two duels we can compare this to is the one we talked about previously and the one we're talking about now. I feel that it is a bit unfair to compare Joey to the king of games, who is going to know those rules inside and out before the start of the tournament.
Well, especially in the fact that the presumption is that Duelist Kingdom, at least the final round, was televised. So at that point, people know how high he got up there, but they also know how much of a novice he is.
Yeah.
So it's one of those inconsistencies that I agree with you needed to be fixed quite a bit. This was actually another negative that I'm kind of surprised nobody else mentioned, but okay, I'm not saying that the Tristan Serenity subplot was bad. I think it was fine. What ruined it was the fact that Tristan immediately started lying to Serenity, and then we had to deal with the whole liar revealed subplot, and it just kind of reminds me of one of the biggest problems I have with Serenity as a character is that she is constantly treated with kid gloves. Because you can't tell her that you can't tell her that Joey's losing the duel. That'll hurt her feelings. I'm sorry, but Serenity, your brother's whole shtick is to come from behind. You're gonna hear this whether you like it or not. And the fact that Tristan was basically tiptoeing around it was a little annoying to me.
I get what you're saying, but I think to the show's credit, we do see Serenity kind of just it's okay. I get the fact that he's behind, but I still believe in him, and I think he's still gonna pull through.
Yeah, well, the problem that I have with it is even Joey would look at him and go, "No, be honest. Tell her what's going on in the duel. Don't lie to her because she has eye bandages on." And so at that point, Tristan kind of even admits it, knows this is how Joey would react, and still does it. I'm dude, you're the best friend.
I think this is where we can have the learning opportunity, I think, for Tristan to it's okay to be honest with Serenity. I don't have to treat her like that. If it happens more in further episodes, I think you'll have more of a point. But I think this one we can forgive it.
The point that I'm bringing across is this basically starts up we won't see the end of this, but it brings up the whole arc of Tristan taught Joey everything he knows, and then eventually that gets solved in the Noah arc where Tristan is revealed for the doofus that he is when it comes to dueling. But this is basically the start of that, where he's I'm the sage master that taught Joey everything he knows about dueling. So that got a little annoying just because of the lying, especially when he kept going to the same thing of he's just toying with his opponent. Wouldn't that make Joey sound like a bully? I thought Joey didn't like bullies. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but okay. So positives and negatives. Brinton, do you have any other notes that you want to bring up?
Let me bring them back up really quick. No, I've essentially covered everything that I wrote down.
All right. So let me go ahead and get into my notes really quick. So I've talked about a lot of them, but obviously why was Rex eliminated? Because Rex could have easily been an opponent later on. How the fuck does Tristan have a laptop? This is the same problem with the other episode. He has a motorcycle and he's broke, but he has a motorcycle and now he has a laptop. Now, granted, some people are going to say, well, maybe he got it from the hospital. They don't even clarify that that's how he got it.
Right.
So there you go. And then I also, obviously, when he doesn't know how to use it, it's just wait, whose laptop is this? Did you steal from a random person in the hospital? Then obviously I went into Espa's voice giving me a headache because it's so high pitched. And I see where Brinton had a problem with the fact that Joey didn't read I liked it. I just thought it was typical Joey. He was just being the typical jock kind of deal. But now we can officially start doing these. I don't have the sound effect ready, but we officially have a foul in the duel. So, yes, we actually will have a couple. There was actually a few that happened. So the first foul is on Joey because Joey summoned a 5-star monster without a sacrifice. Technically, even though I'm not going to count it in this duel, he also summoned a fusion monster. Because Guilty of the Dark Knight is a fusion monster. 4Kids changed the color of the monster card in there, because I've seen the Japanese footage where it is still purple, but they changed it to a regular monster card. So technically, it is a fusion monster. I know because I have Guiltia.
Why did they change it? Do we know?
So it would make more sense. But even 4Kids forgot about it because 4Kids was still doing the Noah arc, and they changed it back in one of the episodes where he was facing off against one of the big 5.
Okay.
So I'm only going to count one foul here, but technically there's 2. But since 4Kids tried to fix it, I'll give them that. I also did make this observation. Espa's power is very, don't give me crap, it's pink. Then I also love the fact that Tristan sucks at commentary where he promised Serenity that he was going to give like play-by-play kind of action in there, and he's just sitting there silent. Yeah, you suck at commentary. You are no Jim Ross. Let's just put it that way.
Well, to his benefit, I thought when they said, "Oh, they're broadcasting," that they had actual like crew who were filming it. So when all he could see was just
great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like that's what I thought. So when they showed the computer
when the
screen,
nurse had to come in and put him in the duel footage, that would have been great to have on film.
It like I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. Like he doesn't know what's going on. All he's seeing is images of cards and numbers decreasing. So, like, that's not really his fault. How do you communicate what you are not 100% sure about?
Yes. So here comes our second foul. So, as Brenton mentioned, we got to see the implementation of both Graceful Dice and Skull Dice in this duel, which are going to be new cards in Joey's deck that he relies on fairly heavily. However, this is going to be an ongoing shtick that I'm not going to bring up from here on in unless it's really stupid. But the way that Graceful Dice actually works is that or Graceful and Skull Dice, is they do not multiply or divide by the number on the dice. Rather, you only get an additional 100 either going up or taken down. So instead of multiplying and dividing, it's just addition and subtraction. This will be a continued gimmick throughout the rest of Battle City, but that's not how those cards work. So I'm going to count that as the second foul. Also, I had to mention this with Mokuba. Cheese it, it's the Duel Fuzz! Apparently, I'm the old fart that knows what that reference is.
You're right. I guess you do. I don't get it either.
So yeah, I love that whole concept, especially with what Brinton was saying, where like all it took was trembling lips to get him, and also the mention of bullying to get Mokuba to back the F down instead of disqualifying Espa. Jiminy Christmas.
Yeah, so I actually had written a note that Mokuba is way too immature to be a commissioner for an entire tournament.
Absolutely. And I actually did say that, oh, look, the brothers played the bully card to win Espa, to save Espa's duel. So this goes into the Taya arc that Alex didn't like. Hey, Taya, if you want Yugi to find you, then just wear that skimpy bikini from season 0. I'm sure he'll come running. And just in case people do not remember what this thing looked like, I'll even put a link up when this podcast goes up. But I didn't even think this was remotely possible until somebody actually did show me in season 0 that she wore this. And appropriately enough, she wore it on a date with Yugi. No, I am not kidding. Apparently the episode was a date with Yugi where I guess she was suspicious of the whole Pharaoh gimmick because that was kind of the shtick of season 0, is that the Pharaoh would come out randomly, and so she wanted to uncover the problem. So here we go, just so that people can see Jiminy Christmas, the stuff they put Taya in. Holy crap. So all she had to do was wear that bikini. I'm sure Yugi would have come running.
Oh my.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it gets worse because I'm not seeing the image initially in here, but there is a, wow, geez, I need to take this down a little bit. There's actually one of her sunbathing, and it makes that thing look even skimpier than it is. So yeah, there you go. That's all you had to do, Taya. I don't know why it took so long to accomplish all of that, but great, good on you. And obviously, we've already mentioned this, but the creepy grandpa moment obviously was a bit of a disappointing thing. I also love the fact that Joey, whenever trying to say psychic, he kept saying psycho. And it was everybody still corrected him. It was like the definition of an insanity. You know he's not going to get it right, but yet you still try to correct him. And he says psycho all over again. Holy shit, Joey and Yugi are on the same mental wavelength. This is what I'm talking about here specifically is there was a moment where Joey is saying a line and then Yugi finishes the thought. Did you guys notice that?
They were just meant to be.
Yeah, no. They were on the same wavelength, man. And obviously I had to put this in. Yugi, quick, don't think about Serenity. So I love the design of Jinzo, by the way. Jinzo is one of my favorite cards in Duel Monsters because that is such a unique look for a cyber monster. So it was great to be able to see it for the first time. But I also have to call a foul. Because the series also gets this wrong, so I'll only count it once. Jinzo does not destroy traps. He only nullifies them. So we're going to see this a couple of times when Jinzo is being used, where he will destroy trap cards. That's not how the card works. Basically, he nullifies any activated trap cards and prevents you from activating any more. And it's only on the opponent's side of the field. It's not the whole field. There are actually trap cards that are better than Jinzo at doing that because they affect the whole damn field. So yeah, but we're going to get used to this, that Jinzo apparently destroys traps. It does not. So that's a foul. I also love the fact that there was constant references to Espa Roba's hair being blue, and god damn it, it's not blue.
Kind of turquoise, isn't it?
I was going more green. I kind of wanted to throw in a screw the rules, I have green hair joke in here somewhere, but it was kind of hard to justify because even Kaiba's hair wasn't that light a green. It was still pretty dark. So we couldn't make that work. We have yet another foul. Time Wizard. It does not work the way that Joey uses it as. Time Wizard.
It sure doesn't.
No. This has broken the card because it's never been utilized properly in the series. First of all, Time Wizard could not be summoned in that turn because he already summoned Baby Dragon. You only get one summon per turn. So he had to wait until the next turn. Also, have you guys noticed this? Joey plays Time Wizard like it's a freaking magic card. He literally puts it in the magic card space. It's not a magic card!
He does.
Tell it to the animators.
This bothers me so bad. I'm like, he should be getting an error on his duel disc. So much so that the screen should come up and go, it's not a magic card, you dunce. But no, he keeps playing it like a damn magic card. This one I also loved. Oh noes, not Die Titanium. Can Jinzo ever be beaten? This was in reference to the amplifier card. The headgear that Jinzo eventually wears, and they had to mention, my Jinzo has titanium armor. I'm like, oh no! That's almost as powerful as unobtainium! Obviously, I went into this. Tristan, stop lying to Serenity. Just be honest that Joey always does his best when his ass is getting kicked. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be honest about it. And then obviously, why was Yuki's grandpa being creepy? Does he need to go back to Soul Jail? For those who haven't figured it out, go watch Duelist Kingdom. So Scapegoat equals Joey's magical hats. This is a comparison to how he plays a little bit like Yugi. And Scapegoat is basically the Swords of Revealing Light or the magical hats for Yugi.
Uh-huh.
That's what it is. Unless it's being used with Panther Warrior, then it's a sacrifice tool. So Serenity, so this was literally something that happened. Serenity saying, well, I need to know the truth. Okay, Serenity, your brother is a dueling schmuck. Like, if you want to know the truth, that's literally how you say it. So I actually put this in. This is technically another foul, but we're not going to count it because this card was actually released way later into the lifespan of Duel Monsters, or at least the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. But Amplifier does not work the way that the series implied it did. What the series basically said is that it can only be used on Jinzo, and what it does is it basically increases his attack points by 300 every turn. That's not what it does. But the funniest thing is, when I actually did do my homework into it, it doesn't even do the effect that I thought it did.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and read this to you. Get ready for some legalese. Equip only to Jinzo. This card's activation and effect cannot be negated. The equipped monster's effect, trap cards, and their effects on the field cannot be activated. Negate all trap effects on the field. So this is now no longer the thing. No longer what it says. Now it becomes your opponent cannot activate trap cards or their effects on the field. Negate all traps. Effects your opponent controls. When this card leaves the field, destroy the equipped monster. Is it just me, or did that literally do nothing? It basically removes the effect of Jinzo and then reapplies the effect of Jinzo. That's what Amplifier is, guys.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
That's a dumbass card right there. Why would anybody use this in conjunction with Jinzo? Yeah, they did not. Even like there is technically the actual amplifier design that was used in, and for those who want to say like, oh no, that's the different one. No, they both literally have the exact same text on them. So I don't know why you would want to play Amplifier, but yeah, Amplifier does not work the way that Espa Roba says it is, so that's an actual foul. I also love the power of sibling love, that they were okay with being bullied as long as Espa became an honorable duelist. So dumb. Oh, and by the way, how many people like the bucktooth Espa Roba that lost all of his teeth sucking on the giant Wally Pop?
Oh, I hated that.
It's like, wow, one of them has a real addiction to sugar. I also had to mention this in. Joey has a gambling addiction. Never take him to Vegas. And I also love the fact of the earpiece coming out. They always do this like super slow motion. Oh no, the earpiece has left it. Man, if I had that happen every time my earpiece went, like every time my earbud fell out of my ear, basically no episode would ever get done. And also, in regards to the earpiece, I'm calling bullshit! Because if you guys remember, they were the brothers were originally talking in the earpiece to comfort Espa. Except I call bullshit because there's no way anybody would have been able to hear that at max volume. That's not how earpieces work. They don't just instantly become a speaker. So basically, because they made it look like everybody around that duel, and we're talking like a good amount of distance, they all heard it. No, you didn't. Not even the best earbuds can be heard from that level of distance.
Right.
Trust me, I know. So those are all my notes. As far as this duel goes, where does it rank for you guys out of 5?
For me, I'd give it a 3 out of 5.
Okay, and your reasoning being?
Good. Good to see Joey really use his head, use some good strategy, some clever, fun, definitely some clever and fun tricks and turns between him and Espa Roba. But yeah, points off just for the rehash of the whole I'm psychic, because we had that with My Valentine.
All the psychic duelists, all of them face Joey. Just like it's his shtick. He always has to suss out the psychic duelist.
Yeah, and even in kind of a way, even though we kind of had the same thing with the Rare Hunter. Even if he didn't proclaim psychic powers again, it's just another
that was even
dirty
dumber.
cheat trick. Yeah. Well, they're marking the cards, or while they're feigning psychic powers and marking your cards. It's just like, do we need to constantly mark our cards?
And nobody ever noticed the ink on the fingers or anything like that. Oh, jeez, there's so much wrong with that. Okay, so you put it as a 3 out of 5. Is it the best duel that you've seen so far? So comparing it to Yugi versus the Rare Hunter, Joey versus the Rare Hunter, is this the best duel you've seen so far?
For Joey, yes.
Overall?
In terms of yeah, for just for Joey, okay. But overall, I'd still say Yugi's still trending stronger with his duels.
Okay. Brinton, same question for you. So what would you rate it out of 5? And is this the best duel that you've seen so far?
For Joey or just overall?
You can answer both. I don't care.
I would say that I'm leaning more maybe 2.5 to 3 out of 5 for this duel.
Okay.
It was good, but it wasn't anything remarkable or amazing. And I think, and there were just some elements in the exposition amongst the duelists that was just so time wasty and annoying that I'm considering in my score. Best duel overall, probably not. Best duel for Joey, 100%.
Yeah, because at that point, all you have to compare is his first encounter with the Rare Hunter, and obviously that one wasn't great.
Yeah, he has a improved deck that he knows the strategy to very, very well. So I'm looking forward to watching other Joey duels, so that way I can see, or we can essentially all see how he grows in his capacity to duel.
So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm kind of right there with you, Brinton. I would give it a 2.5, because the problem is that a lot of the peak moments in the duel with Espa included skill. With Joey, it was, to quote Professor McGonagall, sheer dumb luck. So like not even heart of the cards. It was Vegas type luck. So at that point, it wasn't necessarily all that entertaining for me, because I do like strategies unfolding. And so I would agree with you guys. Overall, this is Joey's best duel so far. Is it the best one overall? No. Probably that one I would give to Yugi versus the Rare Hunter so far, because legit strategy was being used in that. And so it was much more of an onion to be able to pull back and be able to enjoy. But that's okay, because the next duel that we're going to have after Espa Roba is actually going to be the start of one of those duels, as it's Yugi's turn to have his second Battle City duel. And that one is going to be a little bit more interesting, as he's going to be taking on the Master of Magicians, Arcana. So, thankfully, we will be getting back to this next time. Thank you once again to Alex and Brinton for joining me on this ride. I know that this was going to be one of the weirder lumps, because it's not one of the best duels of Battle City, but at least we get to turn around and go into what I consider to be one of the better ones of the first round. So that being said, thank you both for joining me on this, and thank you guys for listening. If you want to be able to continue to support the podcast, you can do so by subscribing to me on YouTube, as well as checking us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, and Player.fm. We definitely appreciate the support. It definitely helps us out. And we will see you guys next time for Master of Magicians. Until then, Brinton, Alex, see you guys.